Welcome to Alive to Thrive OT. I'm Tracy Schnabel.
And I'm Lauren Lyman. And today we are going to talk about humans as electrical beings. So a little bit about us. Again, I think by now you guys kind of know us. We're two occupational therapists who noticed a gap in healthcare that's not being addressed. So our goal is to research as much as possible and to share as much as possible with you information about healthcare and overall wellness. So don't fall into the hype that autoimmune disorders are normal, that growing old means growing weak. These things do not have to happen to you. So stay tuned and let us help you empower yourself to reclaim your health. Legal disclaimer, real quick. All claims made on our podcast, videos, and websites are for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We recommend contacting the appropriate medical professional for advisement on specific medical concerns. No warranties or representations are given in regard to any information presented, and we are not responsible for any injury or loss suffered from any viewing parties. Proceed at your own risk. Links provided are for informational purposes only. However, we do not take responsibility for any additional information these websites and companies may provide regarding healthcare. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call 911 immediately. So our purpose, again, we have researched a lot. We want to share our research with you. There's no point in keeping it to ourselves. We want to make the world healthy. So, we understand that receiving new information that conflicts with your previously held beliefs is sometimes difficult emotionally. So just keep an open mind when you're listening to our presentations. We got here and we got to the point where we have all this knowledge because we became very open-minded people. And we didn't start to learn and grow until we became open-minded people. So without further ado, Tracy.
Yes. Okay. So abra sus ojos. So open your eyes. So I started looking into Nikola Tesla. He's an electrical engineer. He believed the secrets to the universe were revealed by looking into frequency, vibration, and energy. He's a very interesting person. He's the reason that we do alternating currents. He's the reason why wireless technology exists. He's a very intelligent man. And a side note here, universe, since he was talking about the universe, uni means one, verse means sound, and origin of the universe meaning came from one sound. So the Big Bang, one sound started all of this. So maybe there's a secret to sound. Okay, I'm going to try not to go on tangents. So we're just going to quickly talk about energy. It's an interaction of molecules that cause motion. So just think about when I'm pumped up, I have a lot of energy, you're ready to do. So it's doing, okay? E equals MC squared. I really tried to look this up. It's like mass and light squared. So it's like a certain point of energy is the mass of the object with the interaction of the light at a certain distance. It's really confusing. But anyways, we're just going through these basic concepts. Frequency is a rate of vibration, which occurs in the form of a wave. And vibration is an oscillation of the parts of a fluid or elastic solid. But what I want you to think about in vibration is, again, back to the sound example, I think it's the easiest to understand. When you go into like a concert and there's like a boom, 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 you can feel sound. We physiologically are interacting with sound waves. Okay, so the next
And we
one.
each have our own vibrational frequency, which is awesome. So if you say like, wow, I really like her vibe, that's like, that comes from somewhere. A vibe, it's your vibration. Certain vibrations that people are emitting.
Very cool. So just a little background again about Tesla. He created the Wardenclyffe Tower. He experimented with wireless transmission like a long time ago of the Earth to conduct signals through the tower as a transducer. He had J.P. Morgan funding his research. So again, you have to look at who's funding. And J.P. Morgan didn't really want to fund this type of transmission of energy. He wanted to do the radio signals that Guglielmo Marconi, sorry, I'm not Italian, that he was interested in. So he was going against the grain and trying to look at the Earth. The Earth has an electrical magnetic frequency, and he wanted to look at how we could use the Earth's electrical magnetic frequency to create energy, but it was not supported. And an interesting fun fact is in the future, I was doing my research that eventually we'll use electromagnetic fields to power cars. So again, does the solution really have to be that difficult? So when I started looking into alternative answers, because we do have so many chronic autoimmune diseases, so many chronic conditions, so many people that are depressed. Like Lauren said in one of her other videos, number 12 leading cause of death is suicide. Well, what are we doing about that? What can we do about that? And sometimes I learned in my research journey is that looking to the future for an answer based on where we're at now might not be the answer, but sometimes the secrets, like Tesla said, are in the past. So we kind of have to put our ego aside. I think a lot of times this is what I disagree with. A lot of scientists and a lot of professionals in our era really believe that, we're evolving and we're on a linear path and we just have all the knowledge. That's not true. A lot of very intelligent spiritual leaders, scientists had discoveries in the past that I noticed were suppressed because of literally, honestly, I'm just going to say it because of monetary reasons. So that's why I'm encouraging you guys to look into different strategies than your providers might tell you about, because they might not know about it, because some of it has been cast aside intentionally or sometimes unintentionally. So that's what I'm saying. Let's be paradigm shifters. Let's look to the past and maybe not reinvent the wheel, but just look a little bit deeper. Because another reason why we're telling you history is if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So let's look into the history, really understand it, and have a better future from knowing our past.
Right.
Okay.
And if you guys haven't seen our history slideshow presentation, it goes through there were monetary reasons as to why we ditched these methods that were working, and now we're finally starting to get back to them. But before ditching something that people used to use in the past, explore it a little bit. See why it's no longer being used. Because if it's for monetary reasons, then that's not for public health. That's not for your benefit. So just think of the reason why history has changed, or why things have changed so much in history.
And food for thought. If Tesla theorized that we can use the Earth's electrical magnetic field to generate energy for fax signals, phone signals, can we use the Earth's electrical magnetic field to improve the body's signals? This is my new interest. But how is this possible? Why would you're probably sitting at home saying, Tracy, why would the Earth's electrical magnetic signals have anything to do with my health? Well, I'm going to tell you. Humans are actually electrical beings. Although we have chemicals in our bodies, and in school and through your doctor's office and maybe through, I don't know, just anything you learned in science, we look at a more chemical foundation.
They drill you with chemical, because that's our current medical treatment.
If you have depression, you have a chemical imbalance. If you have cancer, you need chemicals to go into your body to kill the cancer. But we're electrical beings. How cool is that? It's really cool. So we function via electricity, and electricity can treat disease. And as occupational therapists, we learned a little bit about how electricity can be very effective for different types of problems.
And as you know by now, if you've been watching our videos, we're very into the underlying cause. So yeah, you may have a chemical imbalance, but why? Well, if our bodies are electrical beings and our electrical system isn't working well, then we can't send the signals to get the chemicals to help our electrical body work. So you need the electrical component to make the chemical component work to make the electrical component work. It's all very intertwined. Chemicals are important, but the electricity is the foundation of our being. And if our chemicals aren't being distributed properly, what is the electrical reason? Is there an electrical reason? Maybe.
And I don't know if you can see this, but I don't think it shows it. I'm wearing wearing a lotus flower, and it kind of shows the electrical magnetics within the lotus flower. So the lotus flower is a symbol. It can survive in very hostile environments. That's why I liked it. But I also like this shirt because it shows the electrical magnetics in the lotus flower. So you have electrical magnetics of Earth, of plants, and of human beings. It's an important foundation to understand.
We all relate. We all need each other.
We're interconnected constantly because of electrical magnetics, which also goes into kind of what a lot of religions were telling us. So it's just really interesting to me. In all living things, energy is more fundamental than chemistry. James Lashman?
So, Earth has an electrical frequency, as Tracy was talking about. So, the critical frequency of Earth is 7.83 hertz. Now, magnetic waves plus lightning, they create this frequenced pulse, this pulse wave that travels around the Earth at the speed of light. And it keeps us alive. Without that, without Earth's critical frequency, if Earth's critical frequency were to change, we could die.
Yeah.
So studies are actually showing that there's a correlation between resonances and brain rhythms. So frequency and brain rhythms, how your brain is functioning. So for example, at nighttime, there's a certain time at night that you release certain hormones to help you sleep, right? Melatonin. And it's all part of the rhythms, and the Earth goes around, and the Earth and the sun, and everything is connected. We are related to the Earth. We know when it's time for bed because the sun starts to go down.
Yes.
And we know to release these chemicals in our body because we are connected to Mother Nature. We are connected to Earth. So human and animal health and wellness indicators are actually related to rhythm, and this has been proven, have been related to, resonances, frequencies. So every living and non-living thing on Earth has a frequency. Everything does. A box of cereal has a frequency.
What?
Flowers have frequency. Humans have frequency. The Earth has a frequency. Everything has frequency. And if your frequency doesn't jive with someone else's frequency, it can cause health problems. There are actually ways to test if you have food intolerances based on your muscle strength while touching that food. Because frequency determines the way your frequency interacts with another frequency that you don't like, it'll make you weaker. So there are doctors that do manual muscle tests. Like, here,
I've had it done.
Hold this mac and cheese in your hand, and then they test you, and you're physically weaker because your body rejects it. It doesn't like it. Okay, so anyways, the electricity in our bodies. Inside our cells, we have a rechargeable battery system that provides energy for the enzymes inside the cells to function. So we are like batteries. We're the Energizer Bunny. We need electricity, and we need our cells to be charged to their full potential to be healthy. And when our batteries are draining, we are not healthy. So there's a toroidal field, which is called a torus, that goes around the body. So this picture kind of shows you. And it can reach up to 4 feet. Some people even say it can be 8 feet. So there's a huge electrical field around your body. So if you get into someone else's bubble, you can feel their electricity. So,
we're interacting.
I mean, have you ever been able to tell when someone doesn't like you? Like, you're feeling like, oh, I don't think they like me. Or when someone's attracted to you, you can feel it. Because you can literally feel it. It's not just like, oh, I have this feeling. No, you literally feel their attraction because it's their vibe that they're emitting. So, was this yours or mine?
No, that's yours.
Okay.
I love this one.
So, electrical frequency of the human body, continued. Cells within our bodies have different frequencies. So, when you take in minerals from the earth, nutrients from your food, oxygen from the air, you take all those things in and it helps to increase your voltage. And then you have to excrete those toxins, the carbon dioxide, the water out. And that's the process of your cell. The problem is when you start adding crap to your cells, you processed food and toxic environments, dirty water, Michigan, the whole Flint thing, I can't remember the statistic, I just read it, but they're all very, very sick, and their autoimmune disease has skyrocketed because their water is dirty. They're not getting in that the good nutrients that they need from the water to function, for their cells to function. So you absorb frequencies from your food and your water, which is why you want to eat and drink healthy. And then literally they recharge your cells to their full potential. Full potential equals health. So if you're not recharging your cells are depleting, you're going to develop disease, illness, chronic something, autoimmune disease. You're going to be sick. Your cells need to be charged and they need to function at their optimal level for you to be healthy. So if you're not literally feeding your cells what they need to charge themselves, you're going to be sick. And then cells communicate with one another to send signals to and from the brain, the nerves, and the muscles. So if your cells are not working properly, they can't signal your brain properly, they can't signal your muscles properly. So all these disorders, like progressive neurological disorders, ALS, MS, I'm wondering, if we recharge their cells, can we help improve their health?
Yes.
And also, as we age, we all know after our 30s, it's all downhill from there. Everyone always says it. It doesn't have to be, though. But yeah, our cells have a harder time staying charged, which means it doesn't mean, oh, crap, I'm doomed. No, it means that you need to feed your cells. You need to watch what you're eating. You need to make sure you're drinking plenty of water, filtered water. You need to make sure you're getting your time out on the earth. You need to recharge your cells more often than would a resilient child.
So yeah, just as Lauren was saying, the nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. You can kind of see there's just like this beautiful, intricate nerve network that just lines the whole body. And it's very exciting to me. I just think it's amazing. Our bodies are really on the way they work, and the electrical system is fascinating. So I have a thought to pick up like a water, and then it's sent to my hand. Thank you. I grab the water, I make the contraction in my hand, and I bring it up here. It all starts with the thought in my brain, and so that's really cool. So electricity on the body. 2 types of tissue affected by electricity is the nerve and the muscle tissue. So a lot of problems we have sometimes are because of problems with your nerves. So an action potential. Oh, this is a little boring, but we're going to go through it real quick just so you understand the whole concept. So action potential. There's a stimulation is applied to the neuron. The membrane on a cellular level has increased permeability to sodium ion channels. The sodium enters the cell and initiates depolarization. And then the action potential moves like all the way down the nerve. So it kind of like jumps down. There's a sheath covering the nerve. It's the myelin sheath. It's kind of like I'm trying to learn more about electricity from electricians like my dad and my friend. And so like the covering of a wire, our insulation, yes. We're able to kind of shoot that signal down because of the myelin sheath, and it just kind of travels quickly all the way down from the brain to whatever muscle you need.
So if you think about it, if you are more of a handy person, if you think about it in terms of electricity, your wires should be inside conduit, inside
yes,
piping.
Thank you.
Right? Mm-hmm. So the piping helps protect the wire. The myelin sheath helps protect what's going on inside. So both electricity and the body, you send that impulse, that chemical charge down, and you want to make sure that nothing's going to disrupt it. Well, what would disrupt it? If you're not protecting it, if something happens to damage it, your signal can be disrupted. So we have this myelin sheath around to protect it, to make sure everything is happening and happening quickly. Same with electricity in the house. We work the same as your light bulb.
Very cool. And again, electricity can be delivered to the body using alternating or direct current. So we learned about that in our electricity modalities classes. So yeah, alternating versus direct. So I think Edison knew direct current, and then Tesla thought about the alternating current to deliver electricity, 2 different waves. And each one generates with the buildup of it, with the buildup of that external electricity. It builds up, and then eventually the muscle is able to contract if it wasn't able to previously. So that's what we're doing in therapy, is building up this action potential, this interchange of ions, and creating a contraction. So this is just this is interesting to me that because like you're like, what does electricity have to do with the body? And I feel like we know about electricity in the house, right? So how is electricity produced? There's like coal, wind, solar energy, gas, via a process of chemical conversion. And that's in our body, we're kind of converting chemicals with that ion permeability, like the ions going in and out and creating an electrical charge. And then also remember, Tesla was talking about using the electrical magnetism of the earth to use that earth's energy to create a reaction, to create electricity in homes or whatnot, other systems. But what's even cooler is so this is where I'm going, try to follow me. So if we're doing that, if we're similar to an electrical system, and Tesla was doing that electrical magnetics with generating energy, and we're similar to electrical systems and the way that we operate almost exactly, what if we could use electrical magnetics to pump up our energy, to produce more energy in our body, to heal the body if our energy levels are low and have been imbalanced, like the chart that Lauren was talking about. And again, the conductive path, so for the electrical systems that we have in our homes are those power lines, and the electrical path in the human body is the myelin sheath that's covering the nerves that generates down that nerve impulse. And the load is like the light bulb in the home eventually that we receive after the energy conversion. For us and the human body, it's the muscle tissue that receives that charge. So a closer look at electrical magnetics. Stay with me here. So Einstein said the world is an illusion. I freaking love Einstein. Read Einstein. So in the 1900s, there was the emergence of quantum mechanics and quantum physics. What I think is really cool is I had this gut instinct. Always trust your instinct, because your gut has another brain, and we'll talk about that later. Is that, so in school I learned, like religion was all wrong, because obviously I have a science background. I was in science. But, outside of that, I learned, and being raised, as Catholic, I consider myself to be a spiritual person. But we were told, like, no, science is wrong. You can't believe any of that. It's the devil. So intuitively, my gut said, no, there's some kind of way that these two interact. And if we could understand how science and religion meet in the middle, we could really get a lot of more knowledge about how to heal the body and how to have a better life. And that's what quantum mechanics does. It's the first science to actually merge these two fields, and it's actually really exciting. So quantum mechanics found that the Earth is, and everything that we're looking at is not truly solid. So this table, you can't see the table here. There's a table that we're holding this on.
Let's talk about the computer then.
Okay, the computer. Yes. Okay, thank you. I need redirection.
Something you can see.
Okay, so we look at it that it's just standing still and it's a solid. But when they look at it on a subatomic level, they're discovering that molecules are constantly like in motion. So there's electrical magnetism. You go all the way electrons, protons, neutrons, and the rotating axis is around them. They're all constantly rotating, and they're staying, due to electrical magnetic poles. And nothing's ever actually touching, and nothing is ever actually immobile. That's what they found out in quantum mechanics. What? So what we're seeing is actually not reality. What we've been told is true is not really true. And why does this matter? Tracy, I just want to go watch like something on Netflix. Well, it matters because when you become sick, you need to understand the true nature of your being so you can help cure your being. If you're not happy with your life, you need to be able to fix how you are living your life. But if you don't understand, the core questions, who am I? What am I here for? What's it all about? If you don't understand those things, you're not going to have answers. So look for the truth, and we're going to give it to you for free. So there was this Wiseman experiment, which it was the slit experiment, and it's really interesting. So they noticed that the trajectory of the particles changed when they had an observer looking at a little bit closer at what's happening on this second level. So consciousness can impact an experiment. So our consciousness can impact our reality. And if we are operating under a reality that's false, or that we're not truly understanding its nature, then we are kind of having our power taken away from us. So we want to give you your power back by understanding how much your mind and your consciousness impacts your world. Okay, I hope that's helpful. So again, ancient texts talked about this. I'm just going to go over that real fast. Sorry, I'm a really big fan of Jesus. I respect everybody's religious beliefs, but he had some really interesting things to say. So he said that, your thoughts are very important. Even if you have a thought of committing adultery, it's as if you already did it. Why is that? People are just like, man, Jesus was just really strict. No! When you look at metaphysics, the things that Jesus was saying kind of correlate with that, because your thoughts actually affect your reality. And they have, like we were saying, we're constantly connecting with each other. We have a vibration. Our vibration is affected by what we do and what we think through that last experiment. So if our reality is affected by what we do and what we think, our thoughts are more powerful than we believe, and they can cure us, and they can cure the world. Okay, I'm going to move on. But okay, so even plants have electrical frequencies. There was an experiment by IKEA that was done where they had kids. This is my plant in New Zealand. I just wanted to include it. Where they told the plants, you are making a difference in this world. You are a beautiful plant. You're incredible. And then they had another plant where they said, you're rotten. You're worth nothing. You're a horrible plant. To see if it actually had a difference on the plant's growth and flourishment. And 30 days later after doing this, and the point of this study is to show how bad bullying is, how being mean like has an incredibly profound effect on the patient's being. 30 days later, they saw the negative recordings that were played to the plants. Those plants died. And the positive ones lived and grew to be amazing. So, your words, your thoughts affect your being, is my point. Okay.
But more important than the words is the power behind them, the emotion behind them. Because
True.
Remember, you're transmitting your emotions. Your field is 4 to 8 feet outside your body. Mm-hmm. So how your attitude is affecting everybody. And someone comes home, if you're married, if you live with someone, they come home from work and they're crabby, then you kind of get crabby. It ruins your day. It ruins your mood. My husband will be happy to share that with you about me. But no, it does. It affects the rest of your day then, because your attitude affects everybody else's, because we're all connected. We're all emitting our own frequencies. And like I said, everything has its own frequency. So yeah, you being mad isn't going to break the table, but it will break your plant. It could.
Yeah. Okay. And then, sorry, I was just thinking about that. So Dr. Masaru Emoto and the water experiment. So they did something similar, and this is, you can find it at the National Institute of Health. They have this documented research. I have it on the bottom of the page. I didn't just make this up. He had the same idea, because in Asian cultures, they also believe this heavily, that, your thoughts can create your reality. So he tested this, and he sent messages of hope, peace, and love to different water samples, and then had messages of fear, hate, anger, and sadness on another water sample. And I believe he froze it and then examined it under a microscope to look at the influence on the crystalline structures. Was there a difference? Was there no difference? And they actually had raters, people that didn't know which message was given to what water sample, look at the crystalline structures and say whether they viewed it as pretty or ugly. And they found a statistically significant difference in the ratings, because the ones that had these beautiful messages sent to had these gorgeous crystalline structures, and the ones that were not given positive messages were these broken, unsymmetrical structures. And so, also the brain, has a frequency, like Lauren was talking about. There's different waveforms that are going on. I really believe we don't understand very much about this, and that it's an area that we could really look into better. So there's beta waves, alpha waves, delta, theta, gamma. And yeah, your waveforms affect your consciousness, and certain waveforms are correlated with different states of mind, higher perceptions based on what waveform you're in. So people that meditate, like monks and things like that, they have had a more, I think it's I can't remember which frequency, but they have the more calmer frequency in their brain. So when you're calmer, think about our old video about fight or flight. You're able to think in a more clear way and more impact your reality. If you're having hectic brain waves and unhealthy frequencies, you're not able to stop and process what's going on and plan the future and live in the now.
Think about when you're stressed out, and we've talked about fight or flight in our other presentations. Think about when you're stressed out. You don't think logically. You can't. Sometimes you're not even conscious. If you're in a life or death situation, you're just acting. So your brain frequencies are a lot higher because you're in panic mode. As they get lower, okay, you're relaxing a little more, you're awake, you're alert, you can think a little better, but as you get into down into these gamma waves where you're meditating, you have heightened perception. And that's why people who meditate and who are these relaxed beings, they seem to know a lot. They seem very knowledgeable about the earth. They don't have all these questions. They have this perception of other people. If you think about people who are, read tarot cards and mind readers and things like that, whether or not you believe in it, it could just be that, okay, they function more in this gamma range. They're very relaxed people. They're very perceptive of other people, so they can draw conclusions about you and read you much more easily than someone who's stressed out at work and an accountant who's like in the betas all the time.
And yeah, also for sleeping, you want to be able to move through the different brain frequencies to get to the ones lower on the chart here, so that you can actually get to a restful state. So that's why I'm just talking about everything's vibration, frequency, and energy. Remember, Tesla said. I think this is a very important quote. So in order for us to understand that, we have to understand like our brainwaves affect our being and our sleep rhythms, and it produces an electrical signal. So the energetic body, there's 7 chakras that correlate with the color waveform. So if you remember back in school, at least they taught us this. They taught us that, the actual colors that we see are actually differences in waveforms. And so whatever waveform it is based on what we perceive. And everything is actually waveforms. What? On like a microscopic level, which is really interesting. And then what I did in my research is I found that the chakras actually correlate with the glands in the endocrine system, like the pineal gland up here, the adrenal glands down here. So they're all interconnected. The chakras are the body's energetic system. So you have the nervous system, which we talked about are sending all these electrical signals all the time. And then you have the endocrine system with the glands. So that's connected to emotion. So if I have, a lot of negative emotions and things, that's going to put some stress on the glands, and it's going to interact with my electrical body. If I'm tensed up, I'm not going to be able to send a signal. And then eventually, it's going to impair the flow or the vitality of that energetic flow from the top to the bottom of my body. And this has been known for like centuries about the chakra system. So I know that people might find it like, what? Oh, that's some foo-foo shishi stuff. But if you really look into it, like we said, we have a bioelectrical field around us because we have electrics in the brain that are sending signals all the time, and also in the heart. And our emotions influence the glands, and the glands influence our health, and it's all interconnected, and it's so cool. So we need to be aware of all these systems so that we can have the best optimal running system, if that makes sense. So this is just a picture of the glands, like I was talking about, the adrenal glands, the pineal gland, the thymus, like all those, your reproductive, all have to do with your health and generate electrical fields. So again, the Sacred Heart of Jesus, if you see him pointing here, and there's this huge electrical field that's like emanating in a lot of the paintings, I think he said, be careful of your heart because everything flows from it. I can't give exact verses like everybody does that I knew, but be careful of your heart because that affects everything. So your emotions affects your electrical signals, which affects your energetic system, which affects you and the others around you. So your emotions are very important, but they're never talked about in the doctor's office. Okay, like a little bit, but hardly, okay? But I'm just saying your emotions are a big part of you, and they're connected to your nervous system, which is connected to your health. So science now shows the heart is the strongest generator of the electrical and magnetic fields in the body.
Stronger than the brain.
So that's really cool.
Historically or recent modern history, we've said the brain does everything. The brain is the most powerful. The brain. The heart is stronger than the brain.
So the heart, like the brain, generates a powerful electrical magnetic field. And strangely, we never talk about this in my science classes, hardly ever. The heart generates the largest electrical magnetic field in the body. It's measured with electrical cardiograms. You guys have heard of that. And it's about 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain waves recorded in an electrical cardiogram. So it's very significant, but we don't really talk about it. And all the major causes of death in the country, like heart disease and cancer, are related to stress. And if you think about it, it's like your heart, right? Because like if your heart's broken and you're constantly, if you're stressed, it's beating, it's chaotic. If you're calm, it's flowing smoothly, your rhythm's okay. So our emotions are intricately tied to our health.
And the heart is about 100,000 times stronger electrically than the brain, and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. So this picture kind of shows, this is the field that we were talking about, your body, that 4 to 8 foot field. This is the heart. So the heart itself has a huge field of its own, larger, like Tracy said, than any other organ in our body.
Treatment using electricity. So I'm just going to kind of talk about electrical therapy. And so we understand these concepts. I was giving you a foundation for the terms and talking to you about famous scientists. And now we're going to talk to you about how we've used electrical therapy in practice and why it relates to every day, although I've been trying to do that too. So electrical therapy, it can improve muscle mass after an injury, such as like a fractured hand. I've used it that way. I've used it to a paralyzed arm after a stroke. Functional muscle movement after like a brachial plexus injury, just the increased use of a shoulder after surgery, because if you don't use it, you lose it. So we're just using it to magnify that electrical signal, to build the muscle tissue, to increase the energy in the cells. Increased use of the upper body after a spinal cord injury. So just electrical terms, a current, a flow of electrons through a conductive medium from the positive to the negative. So we produce a current with the use of an electrical stimulation device. Voltage, the force, the amount of electrons moving in those cells. Amplitude, the amount of charge in the current, and resistance, factors that influence the ability of a current to pass through a medium, as like scar tissue, dry skin, fat can cause barriers.
So historically, using electricity to heal the body. We talked about this in one of our other presentations, the history, which I highly recommend you look at if you haven't, the history of healthcare in the United States. So briefly, we'll go through this. 2500 BC, Romans are using electric fish to treat injury and to heal the body. 63 AD, Greeks are using electric eels and rays to treat things like pain, gout, migraines, epilepsy. The 1700s, there were a lot of electrical experiments going on through Germany, England, US, Italy. Frankenstein was an electrical experiment. They put electrodes on a dead person's arm, and they pumped electricity through it. It caused a contraction because, as we just learned, that's how the muscles work. And Frankenstein was born. So we created this whole character based on, oh my God, he's alive, it's alive, it's alive. It's not alive, but we are able to electrically charge the muscle and elicit a contraction synthetically because we're mimicking how the body works itself. So by the 1800s, hospitals had electrical departments everywhere. It was very common. They had handheld generated electricity. They used it to manage pain. One of the queens in England actually was using an electrical stimulation device to reduce labor pains. So that's how now modern day, we have chemicals that do that. But back then, she was the first one to say, hey, I don't want to feel labor pains. She started with electricity. And then 1945 to 1965, electrical therapy was replaced with pharmaceuticals. Electricity was here, and we just pushed it aside for all this stuff that hurt people. So we have 150 years were wasted on these chemicals that were hurting people when we had electrical solutions that were pushed aside for these chemicals, for money, because they could charge more money for these things. You take a pill, you swallow it, it's gone. You're using a handheld electrical device, it's there. You use it when you need it. So it wasn't until 2016 that the CDC said, hey, maybe we should have guidelines for these drugs because people are getting addicted and dying and turning to street drugs. And now we have an epidemic. As you all know, we have an epidemic. And we created that because we pushed electricity aside to use chemicals.
So, again, we don't really think of the body as an electrical body. At least I didn't until more recently with my research. And so, but you can think about it. We all know a lot of people that get pacemakers, right? When they get older, that's a problem with the electrical rhythm of the heart. There's an electrical.
Not that when you get old, you will need a pacemaker.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's not just what happens. You should expect an electrical implant. So yeah, there's an electrical signal. I think it's from one node to another, and it produces a contraction in the heart. So your heart is a muscle. And it contracts, and then it closes and opens different chambers and flows through the body and oxygenates the blood. So the electrical signal is the source of the heart's function.
The heart is what gets the blood to your oxygen.
All the way down.
I'm sorry. The heart is what gets the blood to your lungs to get oxygenated. Goes back to the heart and then gets sent to your entire body. So if your heart's not working properly, your blood's not oxygenating, your muscles and your tissues and your nerves are not getting all the oxygen that they need to function properly.
Yeah, and if it's not functioning, the electrical signal, they put in the pacemaker device to correct that. But I have a theory. I think that, your electrical signal can be disrupted if you have a lot of anxiety. So a lot of people have heart attacks because of stress. They showed the correlation. I think the same thing could potentially be, I'm not sure, with the pacemakers, is your electrical rhythm and your heart is off if you're constantly under a lot of stress.
And remember, if you're not recharging your cells and they're not working properly, your body isn't working properly. Heart is part of that.
Yeah. So sound therapy. So again, Tesla's saying about everything is frequency, vibration, and energy. So sound can be used to treat disorders, and it has been, but a lot of people don't even know about it. So we want to tell you about it so you can use it therapeutically. So we've used sound therapy for neurological injuries, for different disorders. It can be used, I learned in my sound therapy course, for people with Parkinson's disease, brain injury, MS, stroke. I've used it before with people with impaired consciousness to help generate responses. Because again, the sound impacts the brainwaves, which impacts the electrical conduction, which impacts your entire being. And sound waves, I learned in my sound therapy course, also have been used to treat cancer as a complementary approach in other countries successfully, because that cancer cell cannot continue to exist on a certain sound frequency delivered to that area. So that's so interesting.
Remember, everything functions in a certain frequency. So if you give cancer cells a frequency that they don't like, they can't function. And ultrasound, this is where I started actually kind of thinking of these concepts and got down this road, my mind working this way, is because we use ultrasound a lot. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of ultrasound for carpal tunnel or for shoulder pain, knee pain. A lot of people are using sound waves, but they don't really understand how it works, and they don't even explain it completely. I mean, somewhat in our classes, but the sound waves are being generated. You have an electrical plug-in to a system that you set to a certain frequency and parameter, and then you have the ultrasound head. It goes through a crystal. What? Because crystals have certain frequencies, therapeutic frequencies. It goes through the crystal onto the body, creating a sound wave, which generates more circulation to area, which increases the energy, the vitality, and promotes healing, because you have healing when blood goes to an area, is oxygenated, and can reproduce tissue production. And you also reduce scar tissue with ultrasound because it breaks up that tissue, which again, remember, impairs the electrical signal. I hope this isn't too much, but I want you to understand what I'm thinking. Okay, so electrical stimulation, it's like an electrical, like I was saying, when we do electrical stimulation and therapy, we use an electrical device that's sometimes connected by battery power, delivered to the body to increase this reaction, which we talked about before. And then it's delivered through the wire, which is kind of like in the body, the myelin sheath. The nerve is covered by the myelin sheath. We have the battery and the electrical systems that's carried by a wire, delivered to the muscle tissue. Just like in the regular body system, the nerve delivers to the muscle tissue. We're just enhancing the signal. So we're basically mimicking what the body would do if it were functioning, if it were healthy and functioning. So we mimic it in hopes that the body will kind of relearn or be able to kind of pump back up and do it itself again. So PEMF is a therapy that I'm super excited about. My goal is to buy one of these machines once I have the money. So PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And what this is they understand that your cells need to function at a certain frequency in order to be optimal, to reach their full potential. So this, to me, from what I can see, is the first device that acknowledges this. Yes, electrical stimulation is good, but it's mimicking the body in hopes that the body will figure it out itself. This is literally like, hey, you need to start working. And then it recharges. It's like putting rechargeable batteries. It's like plugging those into the wall and then they're working again. It's the same concept for your body. So, like I said, there are certain ranges of intensities and frequencies that are accepted and absorbed by the cells. We get it a lot from our food, our water, our air, things like that. But when our cells aren't functioning properly because we're not feeding them properly, we may need a little outside help. And that's what this machine does. So this machine has a set of frequencies and programs on there for actually certain things. There's a program for things like stress, spinal injuries, back pain, sprained ankle. Like there's so many different things on here, different programs. And the cool thing is, if you accidentally put the wrong program on, it's okay. It's not like taking the wrong drug where you could die, because once the certain cells that you need to be pumped back up, once they are pumped back up, any other frequency that comes in, the cells are going to be like, oh, I'm good, and then pass. Oh, I don't need that. We're good. And then it'll just keep running through your body. So if you accidentally set the wrong program, it's not a death sentence. Like if you accidentally took someone's like blood pressure medication, you know, it's not going to have that same effect. You can't really overdose on it, because once your body reaches full charge, it's like too much of a good thing. You can't have too much of a good thing. You can't eat too many fruits and vegetables. I mean, I guess you could drown yourself, but I mean, come on, that's going to take forever. You really can't eat too many fruits and vegetables. You can't have too much of a good frequency. Your body loves it. It eats it up. And then if it doesn't need it anymore, it just bypasses it. So certain frequencies resonate with the natural oscillations of the cells. It restores them, and any kind of abnormal cell receptor oscillation that you have, any kind of weird functioning that you have going on in your cell, it restores them. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that. Fix yourself. And it fixes it. So it helps with metabolic processes, circulation, cell regeneration, which there are a lot of research articles before that said, like, you can't regenerate brain cells. Well, that school of thought is now changing. You can. And then it helps with immunity, because if your body's not functioning properly, how are you going to be able to fight off disease? So I'm really excited about this. Earthing and grounding, another thing I'm excited about, and this is free. It's free. Nature is free. Go outside. Take your shoes and socks off. I always yell at my husband because he wears shoes in the backyard. I said, no shoes are allowed around this house until you leave our property, and you might step on things that are going to hurt you. No shoes, no socks. So my son does not wear shoes when we go outside in the backyard. I don't allow it because of earthing / grounding. So literally what it does is it transfers the Earth's electrons from the ground to the human body. So we're absorbing Earth's energy, which is good energy. We were meant to live here for a reason. We thrive here for a reason. So it equalizes. So the body becomes an extension of Earth's electric system. We are one. We are one. And I know that's like, some people are looking at me like, wow, you're such a hippie. But no, there's like research that shows this. Like, we were meant to live here. Earth is here to help us, and we need to help it. And if we destroy our Earth, we are destroying ourselves, because we are an extension of this Earth. So why do it? Why should I take my shoes off? Why should I hug a tree? Because it regulates your diurnal rhythm. So like I was saying, cortisol secretion, different hormones that are released at different times of the day. The Earth helps you regulate your body. It improves your sleep. It increases your immunity. It decreases inflammation. And we're going to tell you, inflammation can cause a whole slew of health problems. If you have inflammation in your body, you are susceptible to a lot of disease, chronic disease, and pain. So decreases inflammation. For me, I'm like, hey, I'm sold. Okay, I'll do it for that. And metabolic healing. It heals your body. It helps you thrive. We need the Earth to thrive. We do. So if you can't take your shoes off, if you're in a public place, people are looking at you kind of funny, fine. Even if you're talking to someone, just put your arm up against a tree while you're talking to them. Trees are nature. You know, sit on the ground. Don't bring a blanket to the picnic. Put your shorts on and sit on the ground. I don't use blankets that much anymore. Sit in the sand. Put your feet in the sand. Go in the water. Do something. Interact with Earth. Don't cover yourself up. We don't need to protect ourselves from Earth. We really don't. Yeah, we don't want to step on a nail or a broken glass that somebody left out. That's people you're protecting yourself from. Don't think that shoes are doing you anything other than protecting you from the mess that people are creating. That's a man-made mess, because we don't need shoes for any purpose other than to protect us from what man did. We don't need shoes to protect us from the earth. We don't want shoes.
Do you know in New Zealand that a lot of the kids and people walk around without shoes on? I told one of the kids, I was like, what are you doing? That's dangerous. She was like, nobody pollutes here. So nobody
nice, right?
leaves stuff out on the ground like we do.
Okay, so any closing remarks, Tracy?
Just thank you for tuning in. I know this is a lot of information, but we did our best to simplify it, and we really appreciate you being here.
It is a complex topic, and any takeaway points that I could say is take your shoes off outside and look for electrical solutions I would.
Chemicals.
Personally, I would look for electrical solutions before I go to the chemicals. Life or death, yeah, sometimes you got to go with the chemicals. Just ask your doctor about electrical solutions. And if they don't know of any, research yourself. We have a great presentation about research and statistics and how to do your own research and how to do it well. Research yourself, find someone to research for you, find a provider that knows a little bit about electricity because it is the foundation of our being. So we need chemicals to survive, but we function. Our system is made of electricity.
And your thoughts have an electrical frequency, so mind your thoughts.
Be careful the impact you're having on other people. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. Like our video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up for alerts, and then please visit www.facebook.com/Lauren and Tracy. That's our Facebook page. We'll post some things in there too. We'll let you know when new videos are ready to watch. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at alive2thriveot@gmail.com. So thank you. We're going to sign off. Again, I'm Lauren Lyman.
And I'm Tracy Schnabel.
And we are wishing you physical, emotional, spiritual, and psychological health and wellness. Take care, everybody.
Bye.